homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta before teaching. Now let us study the Bodhicharyavatara. At this point, we are in the section of reflecting on the preciousness of human life, endowed with freedoms and advantages, thus remaining diligent. As we discuss this topic today, we will continue to explain that if we waste this human life, then all the wise ones will also reproach us for our foolish behaviors. As the verse says, somehow by luck I've gained a place of benefit so hard to get. If I, while I am cognizant, am led back to those hells again, it is as if I've been bewitched by spells and have no will in this. The meaning of these verses is quite straightforward. Earlier we discussed that obtaining this human body is as rare as the blooming of an udumbara flower through various analytical methods. And once obtained, its value surpasses that of 100,000 wish-fulfilling jewels. It holds incomparable significance and great meaning for sentient beings. When we contemplate these reasons, we realize that human life is extremely rare, and once obtained, it brings immense benefit and helps to both our present and future lives. How did we come to possess such a life in this existence? It is the result of our accumulation of merit over countless kalpas. Only through such fortunate circumstances, or only under such extraordinary conditions coming together, have we obtained this human life in this very existence. Just like a fertile field or a rich and productive land, any crop can flourish and ripen. Likewise, with this human body, we can accomplish all the most important things for ourselves and others. We have already obtained such an extraordinary human existence in this very life. But if we lack the wisdom to discern what to adopt and what to abandon, then we may not be able to make use of this human life. However, for all people here, we can discern what to adopt and what to abandon, to know virtue from non-virtue, and to distinguish suffering from happiness. We also understand various worldly and supramundane principles. With the wisdom gained from hearing, contemplation, and meditation, we should understand what our future holds, and by what means can we attain lasting happiness throughout all our lives. This is a very important question for those with wisdom, and it is something that is worth careful consideration. All of us should apply this wisdom and reflect on the value of the human life we have obtained. We then understand that we must create the right conditions for liberation. If we do not make use of such a precious opportunity and instead spend our days in the hustle and bustle or live in a daze, committing all kinds of negative actions, then it will be impossible for us to attain liberation. On the contrary, we will fall into the unbearable suffering of the hell-hungry ghost and animal realms. Many sentient beings remain ignorant of their past or future lives. They just stay in a state of living in a fog. In fact, during the time of Buddha Shakyamuni and after Buddha Shakyamuni entered parinirvana, many biographies of the Buddha and various stories record that many people have taken rebirth as humans after coming from the lower realms. This phenomenon is quite common. Not only ordinary people, but even many arhats and pratyeka Buddhas who attained liberation in this life were also mostly reborn from the hell realms. Nowadays, when many tulkus and lamas talk about their past lives, they are always with great joy. They say, during the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, I was this or that, or during the time of Guru Padmasambhava, I was so and so. In other words, they were always great accomplished beings in every lifetime. Except for this life, all their previous lives seem to have been extraordinary. Perhaps this is just due to the mistaken views of a few individuals. They will not necessarily be the true reincarnations of great accomplished beings from the time of Buddha Shakyamuni. It is quite possible that at that time they were in the hell realms, or as hungry ghosts or animals. If the real stories of their reincarnation were written down, everyone might feel a bit sad. In many biographies and stories, they record that during the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, there were some monks who had just taken rebirth from hell. Even in this life, when they heard stories about the hell realms, their bodies would ooze pus or blood. Later, the Buddha allowed them to wear special robes. As Buddha Shakyamuni approached parinirvana, he told Bodhisattva Manjushri and Bodhisattva Maitreya that all sentient beings who have made a connection with me whether by seeing, hearing, or contact, would soon attain liberation. But some beings with very heavy karma are still in hell and the animal realms. In the future, when they meet you, you should also teach them the Dharma as I have taught. As he was about to pass into parinirvana, Buddha Shakyamuni also gave this advice to his later disciples. So from these stories, we can understand that not all of us have come from pure lands, such as Sukhavati, Tushita heaven, or the realm of manifest joy. Of course, there are certainly many who have. Many great masters and emanations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, as well as some Tulkus and Dharma teachers, have been specially sent from different pure lands to benefit beings here. This certainly does happen. The fact that many great masters are from the pure lands can be seen from their compassion and wisdom. But for some people, they have come here from the 3 lower realms, even to commit negative actions as their profession. In any case, we have obtained such a rare and precious human life endowed with freedoms and advantages. We must examine our own mind stream and refrain from committing negative actions. As we have repeated again and again, the human life we have now obtained is truly a precious jewel of incomparable value. This is not just empty praise. Every Dharma friend should firmly remember these teachings. Right now, I have obtained this extremely rare human body, so I must use it to create virtue. I must never ever commit negative actions. If I commit negative actions, then as the verses we discussed yesterday say, there is no greater self-deception or foolishness. We usually think that animals are very stupid, but the negative actions they commit are not as many as those of humans. Relying on modern science and technology and using various methods, some people have created countless negative actions. For them, liberation may remain out of reach. Nowadays, people who break the law and who habitually commit negative actions have basically the same thoughts and actions. For example, some people who often break the law certainly know that if they do bad things like steal or rob, there will be legal consequences waiting for them, and they would be extremely painful when punished. They have this common sense, but some people seem to have no self-control and simply cannot restrain themselves. They end up committing all kinds of wrongdoings and eventually face legal punishment. When they experience great suffering in body and mind, they suddenly realize, I really should not have done such bad things. In the same way, right now, some people do not understand the law of cause and effect at all, while others understand a little about committing proscribed actions or naturally negative actions would have severe results in future lives. But because their minds is so heavily afflicted, they cannot help but commit these negative actions again and again. When they truly experience the suffering of the 3 lower realms, at that time, it will be too late for regret. At that point, to truly turn things around, not to mention ordinary beings like us, even if Buddha Shakyamuni himself were to appear before them, there would be nothing that could be done. When the negative karma of sentient beings ripens, even the Buddha cannot help. So I think that those with some understanding of Buddha Dharma should consider their own future and prospects. This is something each of us should take to heart. There is no need to keep making excuses for this matter. Now, let us continue. Even though we possess wisdom, we may still end up going to the hell realms. This truly is a cause of great sorrow. Such a person is like someone who has been bewitched by a secret mantra and whose mind is completely out of control. Their spirit is entirely out of control, falling into a kind of madness. Because their minds are no longer in a normal state, they are left in a state of confusion. This situation is quite common in the world. If someone's mind is controlled by a powerful spell, such cases have occurred in India and elsewhere in the past. For example, some Brahmins or sages would cast curses at someone, and after being cursed, that person would lose their sanity completely. They would simply follow whatever others told them to do. If someone told them to jump into a fire pit, they would do it. If someone told them to jump in the river, they would obey as well. So when we see people who are truly mentally disturbed, we should feel pity for them. When it comes to mental disturbances, Some people are caused by being bewitched by powerful mantras or curses. You may remember the Buddha also spoke of such cases in the sutras. One story we often cite is the story of Angulimala. He was the case of people who are under the influence of a curse. When Angulimala was born, he was extremely intelligent and very kind-hearted. He possessed great loving kindness and compassion with no other afflictions in his mind stream. So people called him ahimsaka, meaning innocuous. Later, he relied on a Brahmin guru and studied the Vedas with him. Once, this Brahmin teacher and his disciples were invited to another place to do things for 3 months. At that time, the Brahmin's wife became especially fond of Angulimala. When they were about to leave, she said to the Brahmin, "If you and your disciples all leave, how can I take care of so many things at home myself? Why not let Angulimala stay? He is diligent and has a good attitude. Let him stay for 3 months to help me with all the chores. There are so many things to manage here. Would that be all right?" The Brahmin teacher had no choice but to agree. After agreeing, they left. After they left, the teacher's wife tried all sorts of ways to tempt Angulimala, dressing up and adorning herself, then preparing delicious food for him. But Angulimala thought that he could not disgrace his own noble caste as a Brahmin. Moreover, he could not dishonor or insult his teacher, so he would rather die than have any impure relationship with her. The wife became very upset and extremely angry. When the Brahmin returned, she pretended that she was taken advantage of by Angulimala. When His Holiness was teaching this, he mentioned that some women can be troublesome. He also said that women's personalities can be very different. Some women like older men, some like younger men. It seems that this wife's attitude and behavior were not very good, but when the Brahmin was about to return, she pretended to be taken advantage of by Angulimala, lying on the ground, tearing all her clothes and making some scratches on her face and covering herself with dirt and powder. She kept rolling on the ground, acting as if she were dying. When the Brahmin returned, he asked her, maybe twice, what happened, but she refused to say anything, but finally said, "You think your disciple Angulimala is a good person, but actually he is not. He tried to seduce me, but I did not fulfill his wish, so he insulted me in this way," and she said many things. She demanded that Angulimala be punished. The teacher thought Angulimala was not an ordinary person, for he could defeat 1,000 men and was of noble caste. Ordinary people could not handle a man like him. If he really became an enemy, he would not be easy to deal with. So he told his wife, "We should handle this matter slowly. I will find a way to satisfy your wish." Later, he tried to persuade Angulimala, saying, "If you listen to my words, I will teach you a very special secret method. If you are willing to learn, you can attain accomplishment in this very life." Angulimala was very happy and made prostrations to his teacher, saying, "No matter what, I must obtain this teaching." The teacher said, "If you truly want to obtain the teaching, there is a special pith instruction that will allow you to be reborn in the realm of Brahma within 7 days. This special pith instruction is that you must kill 1,000 people and string together their fingers as a mala to wear as an ornament. If you do this, you will definitely attain accomplishment." At first, Angulimala was so kind-hearted that he refused to do such a terrible thing. He repeatedly told his teacher that killing is wrong, especially for a Brahmin. It would be a terrible disgrace to the caste. No matter what, he did not want to do it. But his teacher was very skilled in such things. He stuck a long knife in the ground and began to recite curses. As he recited, gradually, evil thoughts began to arise in Angulimala's mind. Originally, his mind was extremely kind. He would rather die than harm anyone. But through the power of his teacher's curses, or the force of the spell, Angulimala's mind became more and more corrupted. Eventually, he was completely bewitched by the curse. Once he was under its spell, he immediately took up a knife and went out. He killed anyone he saw. By the 7th day, he had already killed 999 people. He was still one short and became extremely anxious. By then, everyone had hidden themselves. When people heard Angulimala was coming, they all ran and hid. He could not see a single person. At that time, his mother felt deep compassion for him. He had not eaten or drunk anything for 7 days, always running around because he was strongly influenced by the power of the curse. His mother felt so much compassion for him and wanted to bring him some food. She thought, "Maybe he will kill me, but no matter what, he is still my son." She pitied him greatly. He had not eaten a single grain of rice in 7 days. So she prepared food and brought it to him. Angulimala, also called Innocuous, was about to kill his mother. At that moment, his mother spoke to him. Don't do anything unfilial. Don't behave like this. At least eat something. Just as he was about to kill his mother, the Buddha became aware of his actions. The Buddha also saw that the time was ripe to liberate Angulimala. So, from a distance, the Buddha appeared in the form of a monk, walking back and forth. Angulimala thought, after all, this is my mother. It would be better to kill that monk instead. So, he started chasing after the monk. The monk walked very slowly, and Angulimala kept chasing him because Angulimala was in such a hurry since the 7 days would be over, but he was 1 man short. He became extremely anxious, running as fast as he could, no matter how fast he ran and how slow the monk seemed to walk, but he could never catch up, which puzzled him greatly. Angulimala then called out to the monk from a distance, shouting, "Monk, stop for me, why are you..." Then the monk replied, "I have always been abiding here." Angulimala was puzzled. How can you say you are abiding? Then the monk, who was actually the Buddha in emanation, said, "Your conceptual thoughts have been clouded by an evil teacher. Now it is your own conceptual mind that is running, but I have always been abiding." Upon hearing these teachings, Angulimala immediately awakened. He attained liberation. He should have achieved arhathood. This story can also be found in the commentary on the letter to a friend. In summary, this story shows that when someone is bewitched by a secret mantra, they completely lose control and have no power over themselves. Here, Master Shantideva also expressed dissatisfaction, even a tone of criticism, toward the ordinary people like us who commit negative actions, saying, "You sentient beings, you have clearly obtained such a precious human life and possess a certain degree of wisdom, yet you still head toward the hell realms. Is it that you have already been clouded by an evil curse? Are you mentally disturbed? Why are you like this? With such a good opportunity, why don't you make use of it? If you end up falling into the hell realms, what will you do then? It's as if your mind has already been taken over by others. In our world today, there are probably many cases of people being mentally disturbed. People often talk about things like bewitching drugs or mind-altering substances. It's said that after someone takes such a drug or even is exposed to it, they are immediately under someone else's control. There is a true story that happened in the Han regions. An old woman met someone on the street. When she met this person, he gave her something to eat. After eating it, she just followed him wherever he went. She even brought him back to her own home and gave him all her money, her gold earrings, and all her valuable possessions. She had everything over to him. After giving him everything, she even gave him her bank books. But since he couldn't withdraw the money himself, she went with him to the bank to withdraw the money for him and gave it all to him as well. When he was about to leave, she even said goodbye to him. About an hour after she got home, she suddenly snapped out of it. When she came to her senses, she could clearly remember the whole process, how she had given him everything valuable to him. It was all very clear to her, but there was nothing she could do. The man had disappeared without a trace. Stories like this are said to happen quite often in big cities these days. When people are drugged, there is really nothing that can be done. In that state, sometimes they know they're doing something wrong, and sometimes they're completely unaware of what they're doing. In other words, they are totally unconscious of their actions. So we should reflect. If we have obtained such a precious human life, but do not make use of it, then we are really no different from those who are mentally disturbed. We should reflect on these teachings again and again. The Buddha used one analogy to illustrate this point in the Lotus Sutra. The sentient beings in the 3 realms are like a group of children. The cycle of samsara in the 3 realms is like a house surrounded by blazing flames. While the house is burning from the outside, the children inside are unconscious and still happily playing, full of joy and excitement. But those with wisdom see clearly that these children should not be playing in this house. The house is engulfed in flames on all sides. It tells us that all sentient beings in the 3 realms are actually in the midst of the painful flames of samsara. yet they are completely unaware, completely oblivious. Instead, they think that everything they are doing is meaningful. Driven by endless greed, they keep engaging in distracted activities. So, all of us here should wake up as soon as possible. It is best not to let ourselves be trapped by all kinds of worldly distractions. We must wake ourselves up, remind ourselves, and urge ourselves onward. If we do this, we will understand, although human life is very short, by relying on this brief existence, even if we do not attain liberation in this life, we can at least be on the path of accumulation. This is attainable. So, for every practitioner, we must practice the Dharma. Especially now that we have obtained this human body, we must never waste it. Everyone should always remember this well. Next, we will discuss why we are still so deluded even after obtaining a human body. There must be a reason for this. We need to examine its causes and conditions. This is how it is expressed in the verses. I don't know what's deluded me. What do I have inside of me? Here the phrase, what's deluded me, refers to the cause that confuses our minds. And we are completely unaware of what it is that deludes our minds. This verse is a bit difficult to explain, literally, but it should be understood like this. We have never known about this hidden cause of our confusion in the past. Now we must ask, what kind of poison, what kind of toxin is hidden in my mind? What exactly is hidden in my mind? What is it that is stored in my mind? Of course, according to the commentary by Tokme Zangpo, it is simply our afflictions at work. There is nothing else hidden there. Many Dharma friends may have had this thought. I clearly believe karma and its results, but somehow I just can't seem to practice the Dharma or even memorize texts. Yet when it comes to doing bad things, I am very interested, clever, and capable. No matter what I do, I never feel like time is dragging on. So what exactly is hidden in my mind? Many people may have doubts. What is wrong with me? Is there something wrong with my mind? What is hidden in my mind? In fact, there is nothing else but afflictions hidden in our mind. The Buddha also said this in the sutras. The poisonous snake of affliction sleeps in your heart. This is quoted in the Bequeathed Teaching Sutra. Indeed, the poisonous snake of afflictions is already sleeping in our hearts. As long as the poisonous snake of afflictions is hidden in our hearts, it releases its venom at any time. As a result, we can rarely experience true freedom. So, whatever practice we do, it seems we lack courage, strength, and ability. Why is this? It's because our minds lack motivation. And why do we lack motivation? Because afflictions are hidden within. For example, if you ask people in big cities nowadays to listen to teachings for 24 hours a day or study Mahayana Dharma for 24 hours a day, it's simply impossible. For some people, even attending 2 or 3 classes a week or just one is still a bit difficult, since practicing diligently and meditating for 24 hours is almost impossible. But can they reach the minimum requirements, such as spare 30 minutes out of 24 hours to observe their own mind, to contemplate bodhicitta? Even that is very difficult for some people. By looking at it this way, we can observe what is really hidden in our minds. There must be something negative hidden there. Otherwise, why are we so different from those great masters of the Kadampa school in the past? After all, we are both humans. But we are very capable and courageous engaging negative things like greed, anger, ignorance, jealousy, or pride. So we really should reflect on ourselves. What exactly is hidden in our minds? In Finding Rest in the Nature of Mind, the omniscient Longchenpa also said something similar. No matter how much is explained, you don't understand. No matter how much is taught, you can't realize it. What exactly is hidden in your mind? Is it a huge iron ball or a big stone? Sometimes we really feel, is my mind filled with stones? Or an iron ball or something else? Perhaps we have felt this way at times. Some people can memorize 4 or 5 treatises so well, and their behavior and exam results are excellent. When it comes to doing virtuous deeds, they are very capable. But some people, when committing negative actions, are clever and capable. Yet when it comes to doing good, they become weak, their health is poor, their mood is bad, all kinds of obstacles and unfavorable conditions would arise. What is the reason for this? It is their afflictions at work. It's not that they are mentally ill, nor is it because something has happened to them. Actually, I think whether it's some monastics in the monastery or people living in big cities, if each of us regularly observes our own mind and counteract our afflictions, our mind won't be so restless. Now, people with money are restless, and those with status are also restless. Even those without money or status are restless. Why is this? It's because we cannot control our afflictions. If we could control our afflictions, many other things could be left undone. The great masters of the past had so much time for practice, and the results of their practice were not like ours today. But as for us, even though we call ourselves practitioners, but how much time have we really spent studying and practicing the Dharma in our whole lives? If we ask ourselves, we know the answer quickly. It's not difficult to see. Therefore, it is very important for us to recognize the harm that afflictions cause in our mind streams. Here we can say this verse is a kind of transitional or conjunction verse. The point is, what exactly is hidden in our minds? Next, we move to the topic that we should be careful of the afflictions that are to be abandoned and thus be diligent with this precious human life. This topic is divided into 3 parts, and we begin with the first one, examine the afflictions to be abandoned. This is further divided into 2, reflecting on the faults of afflictions and understanding that we should not rely on afflictions. Again, the section of the faults of afflictions is explained in 3 sections. The first section is the unreasonable harm caused by afflictions. Afflictions, without any valid reason, have harmed us since beginningless time. But if we truly examine them with wisdom, afflictions can be eliminated. This is what will be explained next. Aversion, craving, and so forth, my enemies have no limbs and such. They are not brave or wise, and yet they've somehow made me like a slave. This means, as mentioned earlier, we may wonder, what kind of harm is it that afflictions cause me? Now, we can observe for ourselves what we call afflictions truly do bring us harm. We know there are 84,000 afflictions. If we categorize them, they are all included in the 5 poisons or the 3 poisons. These afflictions are desire, anger, ignorance, jealousy, pride, delusion, and so on. These afflictions, such as desire or anger, are actually the greatest obstacles in our practice. They are also our most terrifying enemies. If we analyze these enemies with wisdom compared to worldly enemies, the enemy of afflictions can be overcome. Why is that? Because these enemies of afflictions do not have hands to grab me or hit me, nor do they have feet to follow me wherever I go. They don't have mouths to slander or ridicule me. They don't have any weapons in their hands either. They don't have any such abilities, because whether analyzed with the wisdom of the sutra or tantra traditions, we know that afflictions have no color, no shape, no place of coming or going. Their nature is like a mirage in the sky, ultimately insubstantial. They are nothing more than illusory clouds, a deceptive phenomenon. Since the true nature of afflictions is non-existent, but why is it that even without hands or feet, they still harm me so much? Afflictions are not heroes, because afflictions are always accompanied by laziness. They are not like worldly heroes or strong men who can defeat countless people. They are not such heroic figures. And afflictions are not like the wise and eloquent people of the world either. They do not possess great wisdom or insight. Afflictions are just mental factors associated with ignorance. So why is it that afflictions bind me so tightly, leaving me with no freedom at all? We are like a yak being tied to a stake with a rope or being bound by a nose ring. Why is it that these afflictions so often make me their slave, constantly responding to their call and under their control? Why do I spend day and night revolving around my afflictions? Each of us should examine this carefully. Sometimes afflictions seem truly terrifying. Just hearing the words like craving or anger arises in our mind streams. We lose confidence in ourselves. It's quite frightening. For example, some people have very strong cravings in their mind streams. When craving arises in their minds, they have no shame, no mindfulness or awareness, and they have no wisdom to control it. Later, when they recall this state, they feel embarrassed as well. Or when some people experience intense anger, no matter how many people try to persuade them, they cannot control it. They start grabbing things, ready to hit others. At that moment, it's as if they have gone completely mad. But after some time, when they recall their state of mind, they deeply regret it. So afflictions have no hands or feet. They are not like our worldly enemies. Worldly enemies can seem truly frightening. They may come at you with guns or knives, and that can be very scary at times. But afflictions truly reside in everyone's heart. It seems that they are something especially strange hidden within. But if we analyze them with wisdom, we'll see they don't really exist. Whether it's anger, craving, or ignorance, none of these afflictions has any real substance. The nature of afflictions is a mental state that has brought great trouble to sentient beings since beginningless time. They are called afflictions because they disturb and trouble the mind. The treatise on the great perfection of wisdom also says that afflictions disturb the minds of sentient beings and cause them suffering. Hence, they are called afflictions. Of course, if we sum up all the afflictions, as explained in the 5th chapter of the Abhidharma Kosha, the root of existence is the afflictions. The root of all existences in the 3 realms is the 6 types of afflictions: desire, anger, ignorance, and so on. How do these afflictions actually harm sentient beings? We should really reflect on this. Why is it so? As Mipam Rinpoche said in some of his teachings, there are people whom even kings cannot defeat, but women can subdue them. There are such sayings. So in this world, some strong people who submit to no one, but when afflictions arise, they have no choice but to surrender to their afflictions. So afflictions are the most terrifying enemies in our world, because when afflictions arise, no matter it's a guru on the throne or a great master under a parasol or someone with great fame and status in the world, people often commit all kinds of negative actions under the influence of afflictions. At the call of afflictions, they obediently begin to create all sorts of unwholesome karma. Throughout history, there have been very few great practitioners who never surrendered and even conquered their afflictions. Here, this verse mainly explains the harm that afflictions cause us. But as practitioners, we must analyze the true nature of afflictions. What are afflictions really? Of course, there are pith instructions from our gurus. In the Sutrayana, when afflictions arise, there are also methods of meditating on them as if a dream and illusion to counteract them. For those practicing Tantra, such as in Dzogchen, as taught in the view of primordial purity, one should maintain a view as vast as the sky to cut through the negative conceptual thoughts in our mind streams. When we observe in this way, all afflictions will dissolve into space and not a trace can be found. So as practitioners, we should regularly observe the afflictions in our own mind stream. What we are discussing here is carefulness. When we are careless, it means we are in a state where we no longer have the courage to lift our heads in the face of afflictions. In daily life, we can see this for ourselves. A practitioner who is extremely diligent will face many obstacles from the enemy of afflictions. If someone is an average practitioner, the harm caused by the enemy of afflictions will be moderate. If someone is very lazy, sleeping all day and living in a daze, then the enemy of afflictions is delighted and gives them the green light. Whatever they do, everything goes smoothly. Recently, some nuns said that this year they have been especially diligent in study and contemplation, but why there have also been more deaths and more illnesses. I said the reason behind is repeatedly explained in the teachings of the Kadampa masters. The more diligent you are, the more obstacles and unfavorable conditions you may encounter, but you should not stop practicing because of them. If you get sick, think, oh, I'm sick, I can't continue, and then you stop practicing. This is not right. If you do this, then whenever you try to do a little good, Mara will immediately create obstacles for you. No matter what, you don't give up. If you die, there's nothing that can be done. Ordinary minor illnesses or small obstacles from family or friends should never shake your resolve to practice. Your determination to practice should be as firm as Mount Meru. You should make a very strong vow to yourself. Then the afflictions, Mara, and all his retinue will be left ashamed. In the end, they will be powerless to create obstacles for you. So when practicing in general, those who are very diligent will definitely encounter many obstacles. This is an inevitable law. It's best not to become overly concerned about facing obstacles. Some people always worry, if I do this, will there be obstacles? They think about it day and night, always wondering if some big obstacle will arise. This kind of concern is unnecessary. Whether it's spreading the Dharma or your own practice, just do your best within your capacity and go with the flow. That way, your mind will not be troubled. In short, in the process of practicing the Dharma, everyone must be diligent. In the process of diligence, sometimes afflictions will harm you and create obstacles, but you should never become weak and fragile in the face of them. Next, we will discuss why we should not practice patience toward afflictions. Some people are very good at practicing patience. Whether anger arises or any enemy of affliction harms them every day, they think, haven't I already generated bodhicitta? I should practice patience toward all beings and even non-beings. But they are patient in the wrong place. When Vajra brothers and sisters or other beings come, they do not practice patience where it is needed, but they are very patient and especially compassionate in the face of afflictions. This approach is unreasonable. Therefore, Shantideva specifically criticizes such people. As long as they dwell in my mind, they'll cause me harm at their own pleasure. It's wrong to bear that without anger. Being patient would be blameworthy. Here it means afflictions are like enemies hiding in everyone's mind stream, especially in that of ordinary beings. Afflictions do not dwell in a cowshed, nor in our houses or tents, or in any other villa or building. Afflictions are lying hidden in the hearts of sentient beings. They are just like a truly hateful enemy. They happily and wantonly harm us whenever they please. How do they harm us? The way afflictions harm us is different from that of ordinary enemies. Ordinary enemies may try to destroy our wealth or life, either openly or secretly. But afflictions, without us even realizing it, cause us to fall into the hell realms or the hungry ghost realm. And the harm they cause is extremely severe. Therefore, these afflictions have been harming us for countless lifetimes since beginningless time. Even now, they are still hiding in our hearts, constantly harming us. Why? Because if we had already cut off the root of afflictions, our minds would never give rise to anger, jealousy, or pride. They simply would not arise. But because the seeds of afflictions have not been cut off, they treat our hearts as their best home, their best dwelling place. Whenever they are even slightly displeased, they begin to harm us. This is true for many of us. When things are going well, every day is happy and smooth, our mood is good, everything goes well. But as soon as afflictive emotions arise in our minds, our expressions immediately change. We instantly become like a wrathful Vajra. Many people are very nice to others in daily lives when things all go well, but when provoked, they can suddenly become frightening. Some of our Dharma friends here are generally doing quite well, but when they get angry, or when their habitual tendencies take over, it's not just people who are affected. Even the stones nearby seem to be afraid. Sometimes it feels like even the little stones are rolling away in fear of their anger. It really does feel that way sometimes. Afflictions have harmed us since beginningless time. Some people may think, I must never harm my afflictions. I shouldn't take revenge on my afflictions. I must practice patience toward them. This kind of thinking is completely unreasonable. This is the behavior of someone without courage or aspiration. It's wrong to bear that without anger. Here the verse says, if I do not get angry at my afflictions, then this is truly unreasonable and inappropriate. We should take revenge on our afflictions and destroy them. When afflictions arise in our mind streams, we should remind ourselves, just as the great Kadampa master Ben Gungyal did. The great masters of the Kadampa tradition acted in this way. Whenever jealousy or pride arose in their mind streams, they would immediately scatter dust on their shrine as a form of self-punishment. This was their way of showing opposition to afflictions. So, when our mind is not pure, we should immediately use some method to discipline ourselves. If we don't do this, and instead always submit to afflictions, treating them with respect, follow whatever they lead. This is truly a foolish way to act. All the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, great masters and all lineage gurus would reproach our behavior. They would say, this person has no wisdom at all. When it comes to sentient beings where patience is needed, they have no patience at all. But in the face of afflictions where patience is not appropriate, they just keep enduring. Such behavior is unreasonable. His Holiness used to say, when afflictions arise, you should try to counteract them as soon as they appear. If you really cannot overcome them, you should reproach yourself. If there is a stick or a stone in front of you, you should strike yourself and say, I really am foolish. I have listened to so many teachings, yet I still give rise to such negative thoughts and intentions. By punishing yourself in this way, gradually your negative thoughts will decrease. Some Dharma friends keep memorizing texts. What they memorize today is all forgotten by tomorrow, let alone memorizing. Even reading a book feels difficult and hopeless. At that time, they may stop eating or drinking for a while or use other means to punish themselves. But this kind of self-discipline can be helpful. Why? Because with the afflictions of ignorance, anger, and desire in our mind stream, we truly have no freedom in our lives. I observe that the Buddhist study of some young people in the city are really lacking. They do not understand the basic principles of Buddhism. After having taken refuge for many years, their hearts are filled with greed and anger. Especially some young people are constantly driven by greed, always thinking about friends, relatives, wealth, and status. Their minds are always occupied with these things. For them, to practice Dharma becomes a secondary matter. There is no doubt that they cannot learn well. It is very difficult for one person to accomplish two major things at the same time. While some people are driven by anger, spending all day resenting their enemies or certain people, their hearts are filled with constant resentment. Also, they certainly cannot learn Mahayana Dharma well. There are some people who are clouded by ignorance, living every day in a dazed state, like a yak. They remain in this confused state day and night. Can such a person learn the Dharma? Certainly not. Of course, there are a few truly excellent practitioners in big cities. We cannot generalize. When I see these people, even we practitioners living in the mountains feel ashamed. Some people manage to balance worldly work while still completing all their daily Dharma practice. They finish all their recitations, studies, and practice well. Compared to such people, those of us in monastic robes may feel embarrassed. There are a few who study very well, but most people are driven by money, status, food, or other trivial matters. They are always caught up in various trivialities and have no true freedom. The reason is that afflictions are at work. Therefore, as Mahayana practitioners, we should discipline ourselves to counteract our afflictions. What kind of discipline? We should resent our self-clinging, and afflictions often remind us, I have so many faults. I have so many afflictions and so much anger in my mind stream. If we do this, these afflictions, being conditioned phenomena, will gradually diminish and fade away. We can see this in the biographies of Milarepa, Master Hanshan, and many other great masters. When they were lay people, or before they formally entered the Mahayana path, their actions were not much different from those of ordinary people, but their power to counteract afflictions was very strong. So, during their practice, they set a powerful example for those who follow. This is something everyone can understand and recognize. So, for all of us here, there is no need to spend our short human life being controlled by afflictions. We should challenge our afflictions and engage in battle with them. I believe this is truly necessary. Of course, as ordinary beings, it is difficult to eliminate all afflictions. As Mipham Rinpoche said in some of his teachings, it is impossible for ordinary beings to completely cut off all habitual tendencies of afflictions. Some afflictions can only be eradicated in the stage of meditation. Even a first Bhumi Bodhisattva on the path of seeing cannot eliminate the afflictions of the subtle habitual tendencies. It's not an easy task for us ordinary beings. But if we understand the harm of afflictions and the benefits of liberation, then our actions will naturally change into a virtuous way. We will progress and move forward on the right path. In this way, our character and habits will gradually change for the better. If there is change, that is the result of our practice. So we should frequently pray to the Guru and the Yidam, and when afflictions arise in our mind stream, apply various pith instructions to counteract them. If we cannot eliminate them at the root, at least try to reduce them. try to act in accordance with the Dharma as much as possible. This is something every practitioner should remember. Okay, we will stop here for today.
Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye